out-of-control crime continues to impact the nation's capital. Texas Congressman Henry Cuellar shaken up this morning, but okay after being carjacked at gunpoint in Navy Yard.
This happened just an hour after people eating at a popular waterfront restaurant had to duck for cover because of a shooting outside.
Yes. Only 3 of them were hit. They were only wounded, not killed, so pay no attention. The congressman got his car back, but he never got his sushi dinner back. Kind of upset. Henry Cuellar, Democrat, Texas, voted for the George Floyd police are bad legislation. Carjacked last night by 3 Democrats at gunpoint close to the baseball stadium in Washington, D.C. Apparently had a carjacking in my neighborhood. I guess that's 2 days ago now, not yesterday. Where the driver had, I don't know if it's a man or a woman, had their head smashed through the glass of a bus stop. And then Democrats, not white supremacists or MAGA hat-wearing Trump supporters, but Democrats stole the car. And they stole Congressman Cuellar's car at gunpoint. 3 of them. Police have asked all of us to be on the lookout for Democrats who are apparently mostly criminals. You can't say every single one of them, not every voter, but pretty much in Washington, D.C., we got some white-collar criminals that steal money, I guess. They're lobbyists, that work for Hunter Biden and with Hunter Biden and things like that. But in the meantime, the street crime is completely out of control. We've got one of the funny things, Channel 5, the Fox local station in Washington, said they pointed out that there, more than 70 carjackings so far this year in the District of Columbia. And while that is technically true, the actual number is 725 carjackings. 725, may be higher now. I'm not sure what they're counting when they stopped counting, but pretty amazing stuff. And Henry Cuellar, the Democrat from Texas, he's the only Democrat in the Congress who is kind of a little bit not entirely pro-abortion in all instances. And that's why the Democrats are after him, because he might just be a little bit too pro-life. And I'm glad that Henry Cuellar wasn't shot and killed on the street last night by Democrats of Washington, D.C., gun-toting with illegal guns, because they can't own those guns legally and carry those guns. They're illegal guns, which is interesting because it turns out criminals don't care if they're willing to carjack you and shoot you and kill you, that they don't care much about the relatively minor gun charge. Speaking of Hunter Biden, he's due in court today in Delaware, where he's expected to plead not guilty to gun charges. And it's with a special provision, which is called "Don't you know who my dad is?" It's a little used legal provision. Not guilty with an explanation. Don't you know who my dad is? And then he's going to smoke crack with a vape pen in the courtroom. We've got that going for us. So we've got crime is out of control in the United States of America. In Portland, don't call 911 because we defunded the police. Oh, speaking of which, in Washington, D.C., Mayor Muriel Bowser, who should be removed forcibly from office, probably by National Guard troops who should march her out of the city building, along with the city council, because they are responsible for the crime wave in the Washington, D.C., in our nation's capital, of the United States of America. And Democrats from Seattle to Portland to San Francisco to Chicago to the Democrats in Baltimore and the Democrats in New York. The Democrats with the open borders. The Democrats love gangs and gang shootings and murder, and they love carjacking. Vote Democrat for more carjackings. Vote Democrat for more murders, because Democrats love murder. They honestly, they're the left. They're not liberals. They're the left. And keep in mind that the left, just since 1917, has murdered more people than any group of murderers in the history of humankind. And now they're here in the United States. They call themselves the Democratic Party. But the Democratic Party isn't. And they're not liberals. They're leftists. And everybody's going to be murdered in the end. I think the whole country. What do you think, Michael? Probably the whole country. Democrats are going to need more ammo because Boy, I'm telling you. So we've got just scratching the surface Democrat Congressman Henry Cuellar. And you may remember also the other Democrat Congresswoman that was assaulted in her building, kind of in the same neighborhood as Henry Cuellar's carjacking, down by the baseball stadium, close enough. And she was attacked in her building in Washington, D.C. by a Democrat in the elevator and violently assaulted. And still they're Democrats. You know, the old saying, a liberal is a conservative that hasn't been mugged yet. But they're such true believers. They're such rigid ideologues that even when they themselves are the victims of the crimes, they got to stick with the party. They got to goose step in lockstep with the party. They should wear armbands so that we know who they are. You know, and maybe if they wore armbands signifying their party, maybe an upside-down cross or something like that, since they're anti-religion and all of that, then criminals would tend to leave them alone. Hey, they're with us, they could say. They've got their pro-crime armband, they're Democrat Party members. So we've got somewhere I want to share that with you. Also, speaking of criminal Democrats in Congress, Congressman Jamal Bowman, who pulled the fire alarm and engaged, in a seditious conspiracy to obstruct government proceedings, and he won't face any consequences because we have two systems of justice in this country, and the laws don't apply to Democrats as they continue to smash the laws, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights all around us. But he, and it is, Town Hall has a good story. Here's the headline on the update on Jamal Bowman pulling the fire alarm because he thought that's how doors open, because his IQ is 0. Right? Turns out his skull, they did a scan of his head. They discovered that his skull is so thick that he has a brain the size of a walnut, which is kind of sad. But that's it. Jamal Bowman, they love their colons. I pulled the fire alarm because ... Republicans are Nazis. See, that's the, what? Republicans are Nazis? Yeah, that's it. And his response is he put out talking points for other Democrats on Capitol Hill. The central theme is call the Republicans Nazis when they point out that I'm a moron and a criminal, because that's your Democrat Party. And then did Jamal Bowman go out and carjack somebody last night? Because they're Nazis. And then they got back to exterminating 40% of the black population in the womb while driving over a street with Black Lives Matter painted in the middle of it. Also, our mayor, Muriel Bow Wow Wowzer, she was very excited with the Black Lives Matter plaza in front of the White House because, Trump, because of hatred and dementia on the part of the mayor of Washington, D.C. And honestly, I think it's time the federal government take over Washington, D.C. But she posed, and because then radical leftists came along and they painted in the same yellow paint on the same street, defund the police. And our mayor, Muriel Bowser, posed in front of that, like, yeah, let's do that. And they're getting black people murdered like it's a war zone, and nobody even bats an eye. Nobody even says anything, because the left loves death more than we love life. I'm poaching a saying from Al-Qaeda, but the Democrat Party has really outpaced Al-Qaeda. Who do you think has killed more people in the United States, Al-Qaeda or Democrats? Just let's just say since September 10th, 2001. The correct answer is Democrats by a factor of about 200, right, at least 20. I like to do math on the fly, but there it is. Just amazing stuff. Also, New York City college professor who threatened a New York Post reporter with a machete was sentenced to therapy. She got therapy. That lunatic woman, she's a college professor. She got another job with another college, attacking the guy with a machete because he knocked on her door. And she's the one who was knocking over the tables at school because they were pro-American. And then New York Post reporter went to ask her about it. She came busting out of her creepy little hellhole serial killer apartment in the Bronx and held a machete to his throat, which I think you might suggest was a threat to kill him. That's kind of what it looks like when you come bursting through a door with a machete and put it up to somebody's throat. I think the implication there is clear. But she's been sentenced to therapy, which she obviously needs, but she should probably get it while she's incarcerated. But in New York City, no, she's still on the loose. And we got a stack of crime stories here. Congressman Henry Cuellar carjacked by 3 armed men in D.C. They're Democrats, and the police are looking for Democrats. The news media is describing the suspects as 3 men. That ought to help everybody find them. Hey, wait, there are 3 men over there. Maybe those are the 3 men that carjacked Congressman Henry Cuellar, the Democrat from Texas. Just amazing. But do keep in mind that Henry Cuellar did vote for the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act, which was all about the police being the bad guys because, Democrats know who the villains are. Amazing, just amazing stuff. Yeah, and this other Democrat woman, Angie Craig, member of the House of Representatives, she was assaulted and accosted in her own apartment building elevator by a Democrat, not a MAGA hat wearing white supremacist, not a Trump supporter, none of that, but by a Democrat. And there's a racial component to a lot of this too, but you can't say it because that would be racist. See how that goes? Just amazing. And violent weekend sparks questions on D.C. crime response amid surge in violence. Sure. Speaking of Democrats, they've, in Philadelphia, with the mobs of Democrats smashing and looting every place, with Meatball, their spiritual leader is Meatball. She's their own personal Jim Jones. And maybe there will be a mass suicide in Philadelphia later, like the Democrats. They were socialists, actually, in Guyana under Jim Jones. That was a socialist movement where more than 900, mostly committed suicide and the rest were murdered. That was in the name of bringing about a socialist utopia. Jim Jones, he was white. He was a socialist, communist, really. And almost everybody that died there was black because they're the left, okay? But in Philadelphia, they've now arrested and charged 72 people in the looting spree, as it's being called, a looting spree. Pretty amazing stuff. And in the meantime, Los Angeles is following in the footsteps of the state of Illinois, and zero cash bail takes effect in Los Angeles County amid ongoing concerns over crime. Well, you want more crime, all you need is more Democrats. Democrats vote to defund the police, vilify the police, demonize the police, threaten and jail the police, and the Democrats are all the criminals, which is kind of a convenient hand-in-glove sort of thing there. And a 9-year-old girl in New York who vanished the other day, and, a scary story, riding her bicycle, little 9-year-old girl, kidnapped, taken away, put into a cabinet in a creepy boy's trailer. And the police, who the Democrats want to defund and have defunded all over the country, actually found the girl and saved her and arrested the creepy guy who resisted arrest and all of that stuff. And I told you about the story yesterday where 4 Democrats were killed in a fiery crash after carjacking someone at gunpoint and stealing the SUV. And then police went to pull them over just because of an expired temporary tag. And the carjackers took off, high-speed chase, crashed into a tree, car explodes. All 4 of them are cooked alive like a horror movie. They're in there. They're melting like, Raiders of the Lost Ark. And the 4 of them in there, that's what you call instant karma. It's, well, hey, there you go. Hey, look, the carjackers are on fire. What should we do? Do you have my cell phone? Because that's the thing. Also, California, they're always on the cutting edge of everything, aren't they? In San Francisco, they're celebrating. The Washington Post had the story glorifying it a short time ago. In San Francisco, hundreds of self-driving cars are flooding the roads. They're very excited at the Washington Post. And yesterday, San Francisco Fire Department says a woman was severely injured after being run over by and trapped beneath her self-driving robo-taxi. Because, you got to break a few eggs to make an omelet, as Joseph Stalin in the New York Times famously said. Amazing stuff. The Democrats pouring millions of dollars into Virginia politics so they can steal the state house and make murder legal, which is, I think, their ultimate thing. Bed bugs uptown, bed bugs in Paris and Marseille, causing concern ahead of the 2024 Olympics. Maybe they should call the bug guy. What do you think? Jimmy Carter turned 99 years old. No longer the worst president in American history. Congratulations to Jimmy Carter. The Marine Corps relaxes their uniform standards. Now they want everyone to dress like ladies. Just kidding. That's just the Biden administration thing. I've got a lot, and Speaker of the House, and will he keep his job? Donald Trump in court yesterday and today in New York. We've got that and a whole lot more. We are at 888-630-9625.
There's only one Chris Plant. The Chris Plant Show.
Hey, it's Chris Plant. Excited to tell you about our July 2024 Listener Sea Cruise. We'll be sailing around the British Isles, visiting Scotland and Ireland. Please join us. Book by this July 31st for extra savings. Visit ChrisPlantCruise.com. All right. Tell you what, let's grab a phone call. Talk to the nice people. Let's talk to Rob, calling from the Eastern Shore, the beautiful Eastern Shore in Maryland. Rob, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning, Chris.
Hey, Rob.
I'd like to talk about those crime stats of only 728 carjackings in D.C. From firsthand experience, I can tell you that those numbers are cooked. When a person is accosted and their keys are taken from them, and then the car magically disappears 30 seconds later, it's considered a theft, a misdemeanor theft of the keys rather than the car. Because the incentive is for the mid-level and upper-level management to not show an uptick in crime. They get bonuses based on downturns in crime. They lose their days off when crime goes up. They lose their bonuses, which are a significant portion of their salary, sometimes upwards of 50% of their salary in bonuses. So every attempt is made to try and downplay from a person who clearly has a gunshot wound but is uncooperative and says he doesn't know where he was when he was shot and doesn't know who did it. That's an injured person to the hospital with unknown injuries because the victim is uncooperative. All of the crime stats in D.C. and most major cities are fictitious cooking of the books just to maintain the appearance that crime is either staying level or going down. Because if crime goes up, everybody gets in trouble, everybody loses days off, people get reassigned, and so and there's more overtime in the budget. They bust their budgets when you have to have investigators work huge caseloads.
You sound like you know whereof you speak, Rob. I thank you very much for the call. Hot dog. Yeah, your Democrat Party, the persecution of Donald John Trump in New York enters day 2 of courtroom drama with the lunatic judge, the lunatic prosecutor, the radical attorney general, who are political hatchet boys and girls. And really, they're criminals. They're the criminals in the story. They honestly are. And with all the madness going on in Washington, D.C., you'd think that maybe our prosecutors would be busy prosecuting criminals, but you'd be wrong. You'd be wrong. They're prosecuting political enemies of the Democrat Party because they're commies. They're not liberals. They're the left. Make no mistake. Let's go back to some of the because the carjacking of Democrat Congressman from Texas, Henry Cuellar, was carjacked at gunpoint by 3 Democrats. They were men. I know this because the media is describing them. That we should keep our eyes open, our eyes peeled, be on the lookout for 3 men that were involved. That's all they've told us. Let's go to soundbite number 9. Number 9. This is Fox Channel 5, the local Fox news station in Washington, D.C., and their reporter, Melanie Alnwick, A-L-N-W-I-C, W-I-C-K, and Melanie Alnwick on the 9:30 p.m. It was an armed carjacking of a member of the House of Representatives. If you see the video from TV, U.S. Capitol Police response, and it is a nice neighborhood with a lot of crime. If that makes sense to you, then you probably live in Washington, D.C. like I do. Here is Fox 5 last night.
At 9:30 p.m. near the Navy Yard at New Jersey and K Street Southeast, 3 armed suspects approached a man parking his car. It turns out that man was Texas Congressman Henry Cuellar. Cuellar's chief of staff said in a statement that the congressman was not harmed in the carjacking and that his white Honda was recovered a short time later.
What does the race of his Honda have to do with that? I don't understand all the focus on race. His white Honda was recovered shortly after that, but he didn't get everything back, did he?
We've been looking at these crime numbers. Carjackings historically between 2018 and 2020, you had about 25 a month. And then that number started to double in June of 2020. And now when you crunch the numbers, you're looking at something like 70 plus carjackings a year.
That was a little slip there by Melanie. 75 carjackings a month. She was talking about the per-month carjackings from 2018 to 2020, 20 carjackings to 25 carjackings a month. Then she said, now we're looking at 75 carjackings a year. I know that she meant to say a month because that would be close to the correct number of 75 carjackings a month of what we have here. Now, we're a city of about 61 square miles, if you don't count the water surface of the Potomac River and the Anacostia River and so on, but about 61 miles. So divide your 725 carjackings. Now I'm sure the number is greater because that number is from yesterday, and divide that by 61 square miles, and that's how many carjackings we've had per square mile in Washington, D.C. And let me say this with certitude. Every single one of these crimes was committed by a Democrat. Not a single carjacking in Washington, D.C. was committed by a red MAGA hat wearing, Trump supporting anybody. There are no white supremacists committing these crimes. There are no, what else are we on the lookout for? Right-wing extremists. This is all fiction. All of this is fiction. Oh, yeah? What about January 6th? Yeah, I remember Ashley Babbitt was shot and killed by a police officer with no warning, no taser, no nightstick, no pepper spray, no nothing, just shot and killed after serving 12 years in the Air Force. I do remember January 6th. We call it Ashley Babbitt Day around here. That's us. So the Democrats are just on this absolutely crazy crime wave in Washington, D.C. and beyond. And Fox Channel 5, Melanie Alnwick was on the case.
Now, the neighbors that I were talking to out here, I asked them, who's at fault here? They both told me they don't blame the mayor or the city council, but they feel that more resources, more money need to be put into the communities to help give some alternative to guns and violence.
Because money would be an alternative to guns and violence. It's a shakedown. Oh, I don't fault the political leadership of the city who have defunded the police and demonized the police and hired radicals that let the criminals go free as soon as they're captured by the police, who after a while have no appetite to put their lives on the line to capture the bad guys, knowing that the Democrats are just going to push them out the door right away and put them back on the street to kill again, to steal again, to carjack again. So the idiots that live there who are Democrats and they vote Democrat say, oh, well, I don't blame the mayor or the city council just because they're in charge of the city and have been forever. and they have all kinds of incredibly bad ideas. Why would I blame the political leadership for the state of the city? I would certainly never do that, because that would require a certain level of intelligence, which they do not possess, because they're Democrats, and they don't blame the mayor or the city council. They just wish there was more money. So the people with guns want more money. That's what they're saying. Now, exactly how does that work? You morons. Honestly, Democrats are getting dumber and dumber. Every day is an IQ test, and the fact that they peddle this stuff is just beyond belief. Just extraordinary. No, why the what? Blame the mayor or the city council? Don't be ridiculous. Why would anyone do that? Also, last night, waterfront shooting near The Point, a very, very fancy restaurant. 2 men, 1 teen injured because of the shooting. The waterfront, it's supposed to be a chic area, and you can spend a lot of money to go to fancy restaurants, and you can spend a lot of money to live in places there because, Democrats. Absolutely nuts. And I'll get to Philadelphia in a bit, but you see the journalist that was murdered in his home in Philadelphia by Democrats. And this is a guy, this journalist, who had been attacking, anybody that said we should enforce laws. And he attacked them because he's a left-wing radical pseudo-journalist. But now he's a dead left-wing radical pseudo-journalist because someone came into his home and shot him. Would they shoot him 7 times and kill him 6 or 7 times or something? Just amazing. Also, the local stations in Dallas, Texas. Henry Cuellar is a Democrat congressman from Texas. The local CBS affiliate in Texas covered the story as well, and they zeroed in, I think, on the important stuff.
New this morning, this is the scene in the nation's capital overnight after longtime Congressman Henry Cuellar was carjacked.
Cuellar.
A spokesman for Cuellar says,
Cuellar.
As the Democratic congressman in
There's an R on the
was
end.
parking his car, 3 people with guns approached him and stole
Democrats.
multiple things. They stole his sushi dinner, phone, iPad, and car. Thankfully, the congressman was not injured. Police are still searching for 3 male suspects.
They're males. Keep your eyes peeled for 3 male suspects because they're male, and we have to find them. I think that's sexist, if that's all you're going to say. And I'll get to the Philadelphia stuff, but the journalist murdered in his home, the 72 Democrat looters, the mob violence, arrested and charged. But in the meantime, what's going on in Washington, D.C. is the Washington Examiner has the story. As juvenile crime soars, D.C. Attorney General targets conservatives instead. The Washington Examiner editorial board today. Crime, particularly by juveniles, has soared in Washington, D.C. this year. The city passed the 200 homicide mark last week. It's the fastest the city has hit 200 homicides since the height of drug violence in the 1990s. See, the Democrats are making everything better. Violent crime among juveniles is also up, particularly carjackings, which have left hundreds of victims injured, traumatized, sometimes dead. The man in charge of prosecuting juvenile offenders, Washington, D.C. Attorney General Brian Schwalb is his name, apparently isn't bothered by any of this. With all the arrogance of a man certain of his ideological purity, Schwalb is laser-focused on another threat to D.C. residents' public safety, the long-standing work of Leonard Leo, co-chairman of the board of the Federalist Society. You see, the far-left activist group called Campaign for Accountability, left-wing extremist radicals abusing power in concert with their government cohorts, filed a complaint with the prosecutor Schwalb earlier this year, and he's opened an investigation into Leonard Leo's management of 2 nonprofit organizations. The Campaign for Accountability alleges that Leonard Leo used his control of the BH Group and CRC advisors to overpay his for-profit consulting firms by millions of dollars. The Campaign for Accountability, radical left-wingers, they say this violates Washington, D.C.'s laws against using charities for private benefit. What do you think every charity in the city is doing? Well, how do you think all these people live in $5 million houses and they work for nonprofits? that are charities. Just saying. So, abusing nonprofit status to enrich oneself or others is a serious matter, but the prosecutor Schwab seems uninterested in investigating other activities in this category, such as the mess of Ibram X. Kendi's Center for Anti-Racist Research at Boston University. Remember, they spent tens of millions of dollars and produced 2 papers that nobody read? Kendi's Center for Anti-Racist Research is in Massachusetts, far outside of Schwab's jurisdiction in Washington, D.C. But then, so are the nonprofit organizations he accuses Leonard Leo of mismanaging. One of them is in Virginia, the other is in Texas, neither of which is within Schwab's jurisdiction or authority. So this is what our prosecutor is doing. There's a conservative group, and he got some radical left-wing group came to him and said, you should attack this guy like the Democrats are attacking Trump in New York, and then you'll be doing good stuff. So completely nuts. You know, they note, the Washington Examiner does, young people pay attention to who is punished for crimes and who is not. When they see other children getting off with slaps on the wrist for thefts and carjackings, there will be more juvenile thefts and carjackings. No matter how much Democrats and their libertarian allies hate to hear it, law enforcement and punishment work. Schwab and his dark money allies should spend more time prosecuting real crimes occurring in their jurisdiction and less time prosecuting conservative organizations that aren't even based in their community, therefore have no jurisdiction. Because, you know, Democrats, they're Democrats. Absolutely nuts. Just crazy. The crime, the madness, just nuts. All right, let's go back to the telephones, Michael. And Philadelphia, crime-ridden hellhole, Democrat Party, Soros. Soros loves murder in the United States, and that's why he funds agents of chaos so that there will be more murder. Why he does that, I can't explain. Some men just want to see the world burn. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Mike, calling from Sunshine, Maryland. Michael, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Chris, thanks for taking my call. You might have the sound of Mayor Bowser trying to explain away all the increasing carjackings and murder in the district. She actually used the words policy environment that we find ourselves in, or something like that. We find ourselves in a policy environment that is not conducive to reductions in crime. I think that was pretty much what she said. I found it to be kind of equal parts depressing and tragic that she can't admit or hold herself accountable for the crime in the district.
Well, you know, Democrats, being a Democrat means that, never having to say you're sorry, and you'll never be held accountable for anything that you did. Like Jamal Bowman pulling the fire alarm, obstructing an official proceeding of Congress, just like January 6th. He will not be held accountable even for the misdemeanor of pulling the fire alarm. He'll not be held accountable for the expense of the fire department's response and the police response to a congressional office building with the fire alarm being pulled, because he was late and he was in a rush to get to see the vote because he doesn't plan very well and he has a very, very low IQ. And he's an unserious man and a dishonest man and an untrustworthy man, and he should be expelled from Congress. But the Democrats, they look, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, destroying tens of thousands of emails that were under subpoena from the Congress. We got Democrats lying under oath to the Congress, like the Director of National Intelligence, General James Clapper, lying repeatedly about spying on us, all of us. We have a two-tiered system of justice in this country, and the liars keep lying to us about it. Saying, oh, no, that's a conspiracy theory. Yeah. The rules are simple. They lie to us. We know they're lying. They know we know they're lying, but they keep lying to us. It's 2023 in America. The Democrats are in charge.
They stole his sushi dinner, phone, iPad, and car.
Yeah, this radical left-wing journalist in Philadelphia who attacked anybody that said there was a crime crisis was murdered in his home yesterday, being shot 7 times in his home. There have been no arrests. I'll get back to that because he attacked anybody that said that crime was a problem, and then he was murdered because Democrats. That's the thing. All right, let's go to the telephones, Michael. I've got more on Philadelphia and President Trump yesterday in court, and he had a lot to say yesterday, and I got a bunch of that for you. Let's go to Bob calling from Fairfax, Virginia. Oh, Bob, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, thanks. I'm just calling to suggest that carjacking be a federal crime, just like kidnapping, and that the age of adulthood should be reduced to 13.
Well, I got to tell you, there are so many teenagers that are packing heat and carjacking people across the country, across the city, and for that matter, across the country, because the Democrats are creating younger and younger criminals. And part of that is that, as you're referencing, Bob, is that if you're 13, 15 years old, you're not going to be tried as an adult. You're probably going to get a slap on the wrist. You're probably going to walk out the door, which the Washington Examiner was talking about here. And you're probably going to continue to commit crimes, right, Bob?
Absolutely.
Now, you live not too far outside of the city of Washington. Do you come into the city often?
I used to all the time. I've lived here since 1963, but I'm too afraid to now, actually, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you're not alone. There are a lot of people not coming into the city anymore because the Democrats are murdering the city. The Democrats are murdering Chicago. The Democrats are murdering San Francisco, murdering Portland. They're murdering Seattle. They're murdering Baltimore. They're murdering New York City. And open borders and crime waves and gangs and fentanyl. Honestly, Bob, the Democrats are murdering the United States of America.
Yeah, it's terrible. That's why we get something useful for the federal government law enforcement officers to do rather than chase, parents and Catholics.
Right, that's exactly right. Chasing parents at school board meetings when they raise an eyebrow. If your daughter is sexually assaulted in the girls' room at school by a boy that says he's a girl and the teachers say, yes, you're a girl, then he's actually a young man and he sexually assaults a woman. And they attack the parents and tackle and drag and charge and try to jail the father for being upset. These people are demented. They're just out of their minds. I got to tell you, and there's so much more. There's so much more to get to today. Crime and President Trump and the Democrats are out of their minds.